healthy and remains healthy, and hopefully staying involved as much as possible while still doing our physical distancing in this new virtual time capsule we're living in. It is actually very distressing that older persons have a much worse survival rate from the coronavirus, and it has pointed out all the inequalities that are present in all countries. And you'll hear more, though, on a more positive note of the UN Secretary General, who issued a statement over the summer that was really a strong statement about COVID-19 and older persons and their rights. So I'm very encouraged by perhaps what might be movement at the United Nations for us to move forward in protecting the rights of older persons. But let me recap this year. When we say this past year, we really report from October 1 through September 30th of the year. So this is the finishing of this report, and we report it to Congo, the Committee on NGOs, and we share it, that report annually at what would be our face-to-face IDOP, but this year it will be online. But so the program year really began last October, and we celebrated the International Day of Older Persons last October. We had to do it on the 10th because it was live and we couldn't get in the UN because of the GA earlier. So, but one of our panelists on last year's Journey to Age Equality, that was the theme, was Krishna Gautam. He's the director of Aging Nepal. And the NGO Committee on Aging provided seed money through its Virginia Hazard Fund to Aging Nepal back in 2016 to get their basic literacy for older persons started. Well, fast forward, and we actually, and others contributed money in the following year. Aging Nepal won UNESCO's Literacy Prize for 2020, and it was just awarded this past week. So I just wanted to share a bit of really nice news, and we all got the opportunity, for those of us that were live at or tuned into it on the UN webinar last year, web archive, to hear Christian Gautam describe the successes of Aging Nepal's basic literacy course that has expanded and actually gotten support from the government as well as other funders to enable it to sustain itself. And I would just want to say a kudo thank you to who were then the co-chairs of that, were Helen Hamlin and Jack Kupferman, along with members Norma Simon and Kathy Klein, who waded through over 75 applications. And they very smartly picked Aging Nepal to get the seed grant that started all of this. So I see Kathy on the line. I don't know if Jack is on the line. I spoke to him yesterday. He was hoping to be, but thank you. And I shared that with Helen Hamlin as well, and she's thrilled. So it's just amazing what sometimes a small little deed and its impact can have. But anyway, I added up that there were 13 different events, side events that we initiated or we co-sponsored, as well as program meetings that occurred over the past year. And they were very capably documented by Frances Zinedine, because in her role as vice chair, she's also the program subcommittee chair. And as I said, that usually distributed at IDOP, we can now make it just available online on our website. So it's really been a pleasure, and actually, in spite of the pandemic, which hit in the winter, it's amazing what we have been able to continue and to accomplish. Your executive committee, comprised of 12 of us, meet monthly, and the work of the subcommittees and gets reported on, etc. And so the work really continues virtually. I wanted to just call out the names, and for those members who are on the online here, I can't see everybody right now. If you're here, give a shout out. I'll start with Frances Zynaden. You'll hear from her later. Okay, you see. Okay, as vice chair, recording secretary, Sandra Timmerman. Corresponding secretary, Maud Bruce About, who has just recently moved to Paris and will be continuing as corresponding secretary for the rest of her term virtually from Paris. Treasurer, Katie Weiss, and 5 members at large, Erica Dar, who chairs the Subcommittee on Global Alliances, Ranjit Jayanti,
Yes.
you there, chairing the Membership Committee, Nelida Quintero, are you on the line? She's also past chair of the Development Committee, but now is chaired by Bill Smith. Bill, you're on the line.
Hi, folks.
And as some of you may have heard me say at the outset, Susan Summers is co-chair, is not able to be with us today. She may be able to join us late as she had a medical appointment that she couldn't rearrange, but she co-chairs the subcommittee on the promotion of a convention for the human rights of older persons, and also the subcommittee on elder abuse and, and older women. The executive committee met recently, September 3rd, to once again review what we had established our 2-year goal. So this was the review of the 1-year accomplishments. And I want to just quickly read off those goals and say they really remain for the 2 years, with one exception. We have a singular accomplishment that removes one of the subset goals. So the goal 1 is to facilitate the open-ended working group to move forward on drafting a convention on the human rights of older persons. I know we'll hear more about the postponement of the OEWG from Amal, and then work that will be done moving forward, expected work for all of us, our NGOs. Goal 2, strengthen and broaden our global alliances, including the committees on aging in Geneva and Vienna. And I just want to make a shout out for that really has been working extremely well, where the chair of Geneva and the chair of Vienna and I do meet periodically, and we have put each other on each other's mailing lists, and they're invited to meetings. As I said at the outset, I did attend Geneva's quarterly program meeting last Tuesday, and you'll hear more about that, and also our collaboration on the International Day of Older Person. Plus, there are many global alliances that Erica Dar, who chairs that subcommittee, working on, and that we also have representation on, whether Erica is actually co-chair of the Stakeholder Group on Aging, and there's GARUP, but there's major groups and other organizations, et cetera, that have representation from the Committee on Aging. Goal 3, to strengthen membership and outreach to encourage more involvement in the work of the UN. I'm pleased to report that last count, we have 65 members. That's a really nice, significant increase from a year ago, and I'm so pleased with the membership subcommittee's work. And that's chaired by Ranjit Jayanti and co-chair Sandy Timmerman. 4, to diversify our financial support through fundraising to support our goals. And the Development Committee is now chaired by Bill Smith, and he's done a stellar job in raising specific funds to support the International Day of Older Persons, as well as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. that of course is sponsored by IMPEA, of which we are a co-sponsor. And the last goal is really an enabling goal that had two parts, which was to use our monthly program meeting to support our goals, which we certainly have been doing, and B, establish a new subcommittee on communications. And that occurred. Martha Beil took on chairing the subcommittee on communications. And in addition to just general communications for the NGO committee, they are also doing the communications work for the International Day of Older Persons. So I'm sure, Martha, you'll touch on that when you give your IDOP report as we move on to the program. So those are sort of the goals and highlights that we have. We need all members to be joining any and all of the subcommittees that they can find time for, have an interest in. I suggest you go online to our website, www.NGOCOA-NewYork.org. Visit the site, see the subcommittee chair. The subcommittees are listed there. How to be in touch with the chair, co-chair is also there. So please consider going on the website and joining, if you haven't already, our subcommittees. So for sake of time, I would like to just now hear an update on what's happening at the United Nations from Amal Abu Bafe, who's the chief of the Program on Aging division at DESA. Amal.
Thank you so much, Cynthia, and welcome everybody. It's great to see lots of familiar faces and friends. I hope everyone's doing well. I have received my marching orders from the organizers on what I'm asked to discuss today. So I've been asked to, update you all on COVID-19 and older persons and what the UN has been doing on this, on the open-ended working group, the Madrid International Plan of Action on Aging, and any implications on the work of NGOs. Now, I have to say, I've always thought of myself as a straight shooter, but it seems during the past month, it's been further amplified, this trait that I have. I've heard people refer to me as a bulldozer, as combative, and so I think colleagues at work are calling me no bullshit Amal. So I'm staying true to that characteristic in my briefing to you guys today, because I don't want to speak in general terms. I want to speak in terms where you can all find entry points on your work moving forward. What does this mean to you and your work moving forward? With COVID-19, if you look at the WHO dashboard, you'll find the latest statistics on cases and on deaths, but it's not yet disaggregated by age and sex. And just to put things in context of what this pandemic means to our priority group, to older persons, if you look at the US, which is around 23% as of today, 23% of global cases and 21% of global deaths, you'll see that 8 out of 10 deaths are in the age group 65 and over. In fact, if you're 65 to 74 years old, you're at a 90 times higher chance of dying than the age group of 18 to 29. If you're 75 to 84, you're at 220 times higher risk of dying from COVID than that 18 to 29 age group. And if you're 85 and over, you're at 630 times higher risk of mortality from COVID than the 18 to 29 year age bracket. So what does this mean? It's literally what the Secretary General said in what's, definitely a historic fireside chat with ARP CEO interview. And if you have not seen it, we've posted it on our website. The Secretary General said, this is a pandemic that basically affects older persons. I mean, we're talking about the head of the United Nations system admitting to that clearly. And I have to say, hats off to your colleague and my dear friend Eric Hadar for arranging for this interview with ARPCO and Secretary General. Let me be clear, this had nothing to do with us. This was literally civil society dealing directly with my boss's 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 boss. And that's the power that civil society now has. Pretty soon, I'll be calling you guys to brief me on what's going on, the way I see things moving forward. Now, having said that, and if you look into the Secretary General's messaging, you'll see that he talked about his mother. He even shared pictures of his mother. It's personal. And it reminded me of Governor Cuomo when he said, you know, my mom's not dispensable. And it got me thinking, what if their moms weren't still alive? Would they have felt it the way they did, you know, having older parents or people who are older that they cared about? Because in our experience, and I'm even internally within the UN system over the past months, I mean, we've seen ageism exposed in a way that's, you know, borders with ridiculous. And I see moving forward in our thinking, there's a lot of reconciliation that has to be done. And for lack of better word, I might improve on that moving forward. But I feel that we really need to reconcile our thinking between individual level, you know, what it means to us and people we care about who are older, and society as a whole. Because individually, people will tell you, oh my God, my mom, my dad, my aunt, my grandmother. But as a society, often people will say, well, listen, 8 out of 10 are older people who die from this. So just, you know, lock them up, keep them safe, and let the rest of us live our lives. And very soon we'll see maybe the youth asking for the right to party as one of the human rights of people, which I don't mind chairing that team, to be honest. So there's a gap between what it means as an individual and between, you know, the societal kind of view of it. And also for a policymaker, and if I were an advocate, I'd call them out on that. What does that mean in reconciling their approach to older persons as a burden, you know, as something they have to deal with, as a challenge, as an obstacle to development, versus people at younger age groups or other age groups in the spectrum? Because if the policy view is, oh my God, people are living longer in older ages and that's going to be a problem, then by all means also don't invest in children and don't invest in women, you know, and maternity and reproductive health and all of that. Don't invest in youth, and don't invest in the working age population, because what you're doing is you're making sure that they live longer, healthier lives. So how can you look at that newborn who's growing and giving them the best healthcare, best education, best opportunities? And once that same individual becomes an older person, you're like, ooh, no, I'm not too sure about this. So it does not make any sense policy-wise. And advocates of other age groups, such as children and youth, need to also understand that if they care about this group that they're investing in, they should also care about them down the road, because they're setting them up for failure, right? So reconciling those ideas together is something that really came out strong over the past few months. Now, what happened as a reaction at the UN? Well, we all know that the Secretary General issued the policy brief on the impact of COVID-19 on older persons, which, thanks to that fireside chat with ARP, whose CEO committed to promote this document. I believe that video actually got over 2 million hits in the US, which is massive. We also didn't want it to be something that you put on the side. Like we did it, we drafted it with our colleagues from other UN agencies. The Secretary General issued it. That's wonderful. We wanted to see how can older people on the ground benefit from this. So with the political commitment that came with this policy brief, and you can also see on our website that 146 governments signed a statement supporting this brief that gave the political umbrella for us to move even further forward. And more importantly, and many of you through your individual organizations signed up on an open letter that was sent to the Secretary General as a reaction to his brief. And let me tell you, you know, once he gets something from you guys, it trickles down to us. And it's one of the first few times that we start getting this in this bulk. So many, I think it was over 140 right now that signed up on this, NGOs talking to the Secretary General. And they reached out and said to us and said, how should we respond to this? What do we do? What do we say? This effort from your end helped trigger a conversation between, you know, the highest ranks at the UN and between our team at the working level. And together we you know, suggested a response, and the Secretary General did reply. And in his reply, he highlighted what we wanted to see in that reply, whereby he is going to task us and our colleagues at Human Rights to identify ways to further strengthen the inclusion of older persons in the work of the UN at all levels. And I'll tell you in a bit what this means for us. So you can see the substance came together, the head of the UN came together, the politics came together, civil society's role came together. Really, the stars were aligned. But still, what does that mean at the local level, at the national level for countries? So we have a group of UN agencies at the working level, like me, who, you know, care about older persons in relation to their mandate, who got together in what we call an interagency group on aging. It is an informal group, but it's recognized in the General Assembly's resolution on aging. And we collaborate so well together on the messaging. And to be honest, the past few months proved to me that it was so easy and smooth to do, because everyone's facing the same direction on substance. You know, all we had to do is walk together. It wasn't like there were agencies that were looking another way or giving another messaging. No, everyone was aligned in their thinking, and everyone was very collaborative, and that really helped a lot. And we managed to bring on board one very key agency as a new member this year, which is DCO. So now we have 19 UN agencies on board. DCO, their job is to collaborate, to coordinate all the UN resident coordinators and country teams. Why is this important? Because these resident coordinators, it's under their leadership that the UN country teams mobilize to support governments and partners in general, but now specifically on responding to COVID-19. And they have their own established channels of reaching out to these resident coordinators, feeding them information on what's important, what to focus on. And they are now a member with us in the interagency group on aging. So they have developed a checklist to give to those UN resident coordinators to make sure that priority populations are not left behind once they start planning at the national level. What is it that they need to do to respond to COVID-19? And it's a general checklist, but they have annexed 3 specific ones to it. One on gender, one on persons with disabilities, and one on older persons. So we know for sure that each resident coordinator now has that checklist. And they now apply to funds, they do projects, they work with the governments, and they know what are the do's and don'ts based on that checklist. And it's also uploaded online, and it's based on the Secretary General's brief. So we managed to bring that document down to the national level. Now, where you guys come in is, if there is a country where you have an NGO or where you want to work further with the UN or with the government in that country, this is your hook to connect with the UN country team. There is a list that was updated on 10 August this year of resident coordinators online. I could share that with the organizers and then they could disseminate it to you. Once you identify the country that you're interested in, just send me an email and I'll look into our database and I'll send you that person's email account. And then you can reach out to them and you can tell them, you know, there is this checklist, it's on older persons, we're an NGO, a regional one, a local one, we want to follow up, what are you doing, how can we engage, how can we support you? And you use that as an opportunity to move that conversation forward. You can make reference to the Secretary General, you know's brief that this is top UN mentioned this. You can make reference to the statement where 146 member states signed on. If that member state signed on, you remind them of their commitment. If that member state did not sign on, you tell them, what the heck, why have you not signed on? And you use this entry point with that national resident coordinator system to move the conversation forward. Now, moving, that's in the context of COVID-19. Now, your job is mainly to advocate, and I feel that it's our responsibility to provide you with the information that you will use and shape as you wish, you know, for your advocacy role, whatever it is you want to advocate for, whether it's a socioeconomic development, whether it's human rights, whether it's a convention. There's a wealth of information coming your way, and I wanted to highlight what those are. The first would be our Secretary General report for this session, which was issued, which is on the future of work. And the reason why we decided to focus on this theme was because I was a little annoyed by some of the negotiations that took place amongst the delegates in last year's resolution. I can't go into specifics, but I can tell you that some of the conversation was, do older persons contribute? Are they active agents in development? No, that's youth. Oh, but they're grandparents. Oh, no, but they do volunteer work. And in my mind, I was like, okay, they really need to see evidence of what is it that older people contribute. And we leaned in heavily, thanks to you guys for organizing the International Day last year, on the keynote speaker at that event and one of the panel members there. So we really, and on ARP's work, on the economic contribution of older persons. And you'll see a wealth of data in there that really is striking, especially when it comes to older entrepreneurs versus youth entrepreneurs. There's a lot of messaging in there that's very important to really show that this population doesn't just experience vulnerabilities. It's a very, it also contributes to society and to the economy, and that's what rings a bell for policymakers. So that's one. The second is our colleagues at the Population Division, and I just saw the draft, really excellent work, is going to issue and again launch it at the International Days event this year. The report on aging, it will be on living arrangements of older persons worldwide. Now, older people are different, and where they live and how they live is very telling to guide policymakers in their work to support older people. And there's a specific chapter on COVID-19 and living arrangements of older people. So that also will offer a wealth of information that you and us can use moving forward in this discussion. We're very specific, we're very clear, and it's evidence-based. WHO, and again, the colleague working on this report will be speaking at this year's event, is preparing a baseline for the decade. So you know that the decade was endorsed at the World Health Assembly a couple of weeks ago in Geneva, and Tedros sent a letter to the Secretary General telling him, here's the proposal of the decade, and we're putting it for consideration of the General Assembly. And colleagues are working on a resolution, and we know that some member states are interested in tabling it in the General Assembly here in New York. What does this mean? It means that the decade becomes a United Nations decade of healthy aging. And all the UN agencies are working together on this, and that's also a very important entry point for civil society. Now, as a baseline for where are we right now and how can we improve by 2030, one of our colleagues has been working hard on collecting data and evidence on which the decade will sit. So once this document is out, it's really amazing, and it uses data to drive impact at the country level. So there you can also not just talk in general about the health of older persons, but really use evidence, from data from countries to support that conversation. The fourth publication that's coming out soon is the one done by our colleagues in OHCHR and Human Rights. This is the update of the GAPS report, whereby they're really working hard on spelling out what the normative gaps are. And there will be, again, a wealth of information that could be used in your advocacy work if you're interested in supporting a convention. Now, other opportunities that are coming up that should not be missed out on are the open-ended working group and the fourth review and appraisal of the Madrid International Plan of Action on Aging. The open-ended working group, the ambassador, we have a new ambassador who's chairing the group, who's here now in New York. She will soon call for a bureau meeting, and very soon you will hear formally. And of course, it's not confirmed 100% until it's formal, but most likely the 11th session will not take place this year, but instead will take place in the scheduled date for the working group next year. And the dates that I have, again, we'll wait for the formal confirmation, are 29 March to April 1st. We shouldn't wait for that date or right before that date to start preparing. We should start working on it now. I want to tell you some of my thinking around this, which may or may not happen, is I really think the program should include a panel on COVID-19 on older persons. How can we hold this meeting without addressing that? I think it should be a high-level panel. I really would like to see the Bureau be open to inviting the Secretary General to speak at this panel, should they decide to hold one, since he already prepared the brief. I mean, let's bring him in on board. And the cherry on top for me, I was telling Francis earlier at a meeting this morning, is to bring Governor Cuomo into the conversation, because New York City was a hot spot, and he speaks a lot to diversity. And I have a lot of questions for him on how he dealt with, nursing care homes and the issues that happened there. So it'll be interesting to bring him on board. And if we bring his brother and have them do a side event, they can do that dual thing that they magically do as well. So I think this should be discussed. And as NGOs, if you do meet with member states, it's something that you should encourage, that they discuss COVID-19 and older persons at the session. And the other thing that I would like to see is that this GAPS report that's prepared by our colleagues, which was in response to a call from certain member states, that they get a chance to present it formally at the meeting. Now, this is also something that NGOs, if you're interested in, you could lobby for and ask for. But bearing in mind those two ideas that I have need to come from member states and be approved by member states, right? But we've flagged them already to them to raise at the open-ended working. And the other entry point is the Madrid Plan of Action. Next year will be the national review cycle. So that's where you guys come in. Now, hate it or love it, the Madrid Plan of Action is there. And it should be based on a bottom-up approach. And based on our data, we found that in the third review and appraisal, 2/3 of the membership of the UN engaged in that exercise. So number-wise, I can't come and say it's irrelevant because members are engaging in it. But when you look deeper than that, you'll hardly see any role for civil society in shaping the message that the member states are submitting at the national level. And MIPA was framed to be a bottom-up approach and really focused on bringing the voices of older persons. So if I were a government and I look at it and I see that civil society are not keen on raising the voices of older persons there, then why should I bother? If the older persons organizations themselves are not keen in addressing this, then why should I do it? I'll just have someone in an office somewhere check a few boxes and submit the the input. So we worked really hard this year on the modalities resolution that kind of dictates what the plan is for each review and appraisal cycle to open a door for civil society. And I have to give big thanks to the facilitator who was from Austria, who was very open and very encouraging to support this. And if you look at the resolution, and I'll also share it with the organizers, they can disseminate it, you'll find new language that expands the interaction in the review and appraisal beyond organizations of older persons. We opened it up to civil society as a whole. So, organizations representing persons with disabilities or indigenous people, all of those can now engage in this exercise. So it's not just, and you don't just have to be an organization that only works on aging or for older persons, so we kind of expanded that. The second thing is that it specifically invites civil society to engage in the fourth review and appraisal cycle. This, for me, was to offer civil society an entry point. So you can go to your government, use this resolution and say, you've agreed to invite me to take part in this exercise, how are we going to do this? And the third, which took a lot of negotiation actually and was watered down heavily, but still, it says, and further encourages member states at the national and regional level, to consider providing adequate assistance for the participation of civil society in the review and appraisal. And adequate assistance, when we suggested the language, we asked for financial, human resource. I mean, we really spelled it out and they kind of watered it down. But that's good enough to say, hello, I'd like to engage in this, and what are you offering me? Because you said you would offer me something to help me engage in that exercise. And if you do not care for the Madrid International Plan of Action, if you care for the convention, then by all means you should take part in this exercise, because in it you can showcase how, this is great, but it's not enough. I need a convention to help me implement the wonderful ideas that are in this plan, right? So you not only tackle the convention through the open-ended working group, you also tackle it through this review and appraisal exercise. And we've also, in this modalities resolution, added something new this year, which is a whole paragraph that gives a human rights umbrella context to the review and appraisal exercise. So we're already prepped the way to keep it human rights based, to have a specific invitation for civil society to join in this cycle, and to ask member states to provide you guys with support to engage in this activity. So by all means, please reach out to civil societies everywhere, and with this resolution, encouraging them to engage. And if they need to refer to the UN system regionally, I think that would be, we would be more than happy to connect everyone there. Now, my last point, because I think I went over time, is, the implications of NGOs on NGOs moving forward. I think, you know, for the time being, everything is being done virtually. I see we have 32 participants today. I'm not sure if we were meeting in person that we would have had this number for such small meetings that we organize together. So it does offer the opportunity for you guys to show up, but within the intergovernmental processes, and Francis knows this well, it blocks you out, right? It does not give you the room to engage, to you know, voice your concerns and your wants, or to even reach out to delegates whom you would have seen in corridors, you would have had conversations with. So this is something that's you know, that's going to be challenging for you guys and for us as well. And we'll just have to hang in there and work on other things that we can improve, which is spreading the word further, bringing New York and Geneva together further, especially in the context of the open-ended working group. And you've already done that when you organized the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in the organization of this meeting coming up for the International Day, you know, bringing different people from around the world together. And I think if you've been working on aging issues or for older persons all these years, there would not have been a better time than now to really zoom in and focus and make use of the wealth of information that's coming your way, the opportunity of the pandemic to discuss this further, the doors that your colleagues from ARP opened up for you guys and for us directly with the Secretary General. I mean, this is the time to reach out. And I also encourage you to reach out to other NGO committees. It will not be like it used to be 5-10 years ago. They would want to engage with you, I assure you, because now in the resolutions that are being negotiated, in the statements, we're starting to see older persons be one of the drop-down lists, with children, with women. It's gradually picking up. So this is the time to really step on the gas. And like I heard Michael Dowling, who's the CEO of Northwell Health, speak at one of the podcasts, and he said, this is the time to learn from the triumphs and the mistakes. And I'll stop right there. Thank you so much for the opportunity to, you know, listen to me blab, and I hope that it's useful. Thank you.
Wow, very helpful. May I ask everyone to use the chat box to put your questions in, and we'll get to those at the end. But thank you, Amal. That's really helpful, and I'd say we need to get our running shoes on, right? So let's move on, and then we'll come back and have discussion and answer questions. But the United Nations International Day of Older Persons can, for the first time, actually be held on the actual day, October 1st, because it's virtual. This year, it's being chaired by Martha Beil, and her co-chair, Betty Levy, have done just a stellar job. So, Martha, tell us about the program and what you need all of us to do between now and October 1st. Martha?
Okay, just want to make sure I cover the high points. Yes, Amal already explained what our theme is going to be, which is the launch of the Decade of Healthy Aging, which the World Health Assembly has now endorsed and should shortly go before the General Assembly to become the official plan for the 2020s on healthy aging. And we are mindful that all this takes place during the pandemic. So our title is Pandemics, Do They Change How We Address Age and Aging? It is a first ever virtual UN IDOP. And we think we have a very good program going. We're going to open with some reflections on the several anniversaries that are happening this year. One, of course, is the 75th anniversary of the UN itself. And the other is the 30th anniversary of this International Day of Older Persons. And our chair, Cynthia Stewart, is going to give us some reflections on that, how it got started, the long way that we've come. And then a big central part of our program is going to be, well, first we're going to have a keynote speaker by Elizabeth. Let me go back. This is not only the decade of healthy aging, it is also 2020 has also been declared the year of the nurse, the International Year of the Nurse. And our keynote speaker is going to be Elizabeth Ero, who is the Chief Nursing Officer for WHO. And I believe that is a first to have a woman nurse, as you can clarify for me, Amal, in this position. So she will be speaking. And then we're going to have not a set of lectures, but an interactive dialogue on what action is really needed to achieve healthy aging over the next 10 years. And Jane Barrett from International Federation on Aging will be the moderator, but we will have a speaker from the Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights, because we think that healthy aging is a right of older people. And as the Secretary General's report indicated, older people have sometimes gotten the short stick of healthcare and their rights need to be front and center. We also have a British epidemiologist, Sir Michael Marmot, who will be speaking really on, basically is well known for speaking on the social determinants of health, and that is his area of expertise. So he will be speaking about all the environmental, social, and other supports that are required for people to be healthy, for older people to be healthy. We will also have John Shakpe, a director of nursing in Liberia, and his experience through several epidemics like Ebola and AIDS make him a good person to talk about how we make sure that we really have person-centered care and good primary health services for older people. And from AARP, we're going to have Dr. Jean Axius, who is, Erica can correct me, but I believe he's the Senior Vice President for Global Thought Leadership at AARP International. And he's going to step back from a policy perspective and look at long-term care. What do we need to do to beef up and strengthen the long-term care system for people who need it? And then from WHO, I think Cynthia or Amal mentioned this, we will have Dr. Ritu Sedana, who is the head of the Aging and Health Unit at WHO. And she's a key person on this baseline report, who will be able to tell us what some of the baseline markers are for where we stand on healthy aging, and what kind of research and monitoring and metrics are needed to know if we're really moving on it over the next 10 years. And this section, by the way, will not be, we've allotted an hour and a quarter to that, and it will not be a section of, set pieces, little lecturettes, so to speak. But the idea is really to have it be an interactive discussion in which the panelists can talk to each other. Jane Barrett will pose some questions, and the panelists can question each other and really perhaps bring their different perspectives together in some kind of sense of where we need to go and how we need to get there. We also have asked 3 experts to be prepared to make initial, if we were at the UN, we would call it interventions from the floor, to comment on these speakers at the end of the dialogue. We're going to have Tara Cortez from the Hartford, she's the president of the Hartford Geriatric Scholars for Nursing. I've forgotten the title. Cynthia, you can clarify. And she's on the faculty at NYU. And we will have Mabel Bianco, an epidemiologist, a very experienced and well-known epidemiologist from Argentina, who has focused on women's issues and older women's issues, to pose some questions or comments. And finally, Dr. Bei Wu from NYU, who lives obviously now in New York, but she is Chinese, and a lot of her research has been on aging and other health issues in China. And so she will bring a perspective to what the panelists will be discussing. And then finally, we will have a special report, which Amal referred to from Caroline Schmid, who's the chief of the Fertility and Population Aging at UNDESA, on that World Population Aging Highlights 2020 report, where she'll talk about living arrangements, with particularly a section on COVID, living arrangements, including those who are affected by COVID. And we are going to have some closing remarks by the ambassador from the Permanent Mission of Chile, Mr. Milenko Skoknic Tapia, and Masumi Ono, the chief of the Social Inclusion and Participation Branch at UNDESA. So it's going to be an all-star cast. And we urge you to register. It's all on the website now. Those of you who have gotten our mailings for this program today should have gotten our first mailing with an announcement of the program. There will be a couple more announcements. And by all means, run, do not walk to your nearest computer and click on the registration link and sign up. And even better, tell all your friends, or more importantly, if you are representing an organization, and you can put it out on your organization's network of, whether that's newsletters or website postings, or just a personal email to some key people that you might know, that would be very helpful for us to get the word around. And finally, I just want to say, it's been a very interesting and basically fun experience to work on this. I told Cynthia, I gave Cynthia a hard time when she asked me, because I said, I don't know, it's like running a wedding, you know, it's just a big task. But fortunately, I had a very good committee, and partly I was able to build on the experience of other chairs of IDOP who've done this before, some of whom I see are on the call: Sandy Timmerman, Cynthia yourself, James O'Neill, Kathy Klein. And I know come the fall or late winter, Cynthia's going to be looking around for somebody else to take on the 2021 IDOP. And if you're among those who've resisted, when she asks you this year, give it a try, because it's really been fun. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. I think it's been a good marriage. Anyway, you really have done. And, you know, there weren't, while past IDOP chairs are helpful in a number of areas, no one has ever planned a virtual IDOP before. So in many ways, we all had this big learning curve. What I want to say is a special thank you, shout out to the International Federation on Aging, who will be hosting IDOP this year for us, as well as today's actual meeting. And they did the June meeting where we had the observance of the International World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So thank you, thank you. I'm sorry, it wasn't WEOD they did. It was the program meeting on brain health that you hosted. So Chesley, please convey our gratitude and thanks once again to IFA for your ongoing support of the NGO Committee on Aging.
One thing I forgot to mention, Cynthia, for those who are in need of or just would prefer to hear it in their native tongue of either French, Spanish, or American Sign Language, we will be offering that interpretation for IDOP this year.
Yeah. That's a first. That's a real first. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, and also related to the goals where I mentioned the COAs in Geneva and Vienna promoting our International Day of Older Persons. Geneva will be hosting an hour-and-a-half observance, which is the hour-and-a-half before our starts. So you could start the day at 7:30 a.m. on October 1st to 9 a.m. and then tune into ours from 9 to 12. And they will have Commissioner Bachelet, the Commissioner of the Office of Human Rights, High Commissioner, as well as Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, WHO Director General, on their program. So that will be coming out, and I will share that, but it's been really a wonderful collaboration between all three of our committees for this year's virtual event. So thank you for that. And then you can also stay on from after ours ends at 12, from 1 to 3, when the International Association of Gerontology and Geriatrics is hosting, and Martha Bile, being the UN main rep for IAGG. You want to just tell us just a moment about that follow-up for IDOP?
We have representatives in the five regions that the UN has, and we will be having the regional chairs talk about health, achievements and challenges to achieve healthy aging in the 2020s, and that it will be a mixture of geriatricians and gerontologists who will be speaking. And it should be very interesting. It will be a high-level program.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you. And thanks again, Martha, for a really fine job, and to your co-chair, Betty Levy, and for many of you on this, on the web call today are members of the various planning committee or communications subcommittees in making it all happen. So thank you all very much.
We've had excellent teamwork. That's what made it fun to do.
Great. Okay. Then I'll turn it over to Frances Zinedine, who is going to give us our marching orders about what NGOs' involvement is for the future. Frances?
Yes, hi, thank you very much. I will begin by talking about the open-ended working group on aging, which is the body that is discussing the feasibility of having a convention. I understand Susan was trying to get here to give this presentation, so I will speak on her behalf. So why is the NGO Committee on Aging advocating for an international legal instrument to protect the rights of older persons? I'm guessing that the people who are on the call today, they are all interested in global issues concerning older persons. So one of the things that the NGO Committee on Aging has been established for is to facilitate the participation of its members in intergovernmental negotiations and intergovernmental deliberations. So for this open-ended working group, which Amal has already talked a lot about, which is going to be meeting in April next year, and it's not that far away if we have to do advocacy work. So in many parts of the world, older persons are living healthy and active lives with adequate resources to ensure a life of dignity. But in many parts of the world, in both developed and developing countries, older persons are viewed as a burden on society. Many do not have pensions or social security. Many do not have affordable or accessible health care. Many go hungry. Many are homeless. And many are abandoned or ostracized. And many, many are abused and neglected. And this is why our NGO Committee on Aging is following the deliberations of the open-ended working group. It's held 10 sessions already, and we have not had a decision on whether to have a convention or not. So it's very, very crucial that we all, if we believe in the rights of older persons, that we try and make an effort to advocate for this. And we do have a subcommittee, so we welcome whoever's interested to help us, particularly in terms of conducting mission visits. It's been a bit difficult this year, of course, but hopefully by early next year, we will be able to conduct mission visits to the permanent missions of the member states to the UN, to encourage member states to first participate, and second, to support a convention. So a convention to us would recognize that age discrimination and ageism must not be tolerated. A convention would address the gaps in protection of older persons in existing human rights laws. A convention would view older persons as rights holders. And a convention would codify the rights of older persons in one single document, recognizing the specific challenges related to aging and serving as a tool for both empowerment and protection. And a convention would also act as an anti-discriminatory tool to challenge prevailing negative stereotypes about old age. A convention would require governments to collect data, develop indicators, and other supporting instruments to underpin the monitoring process. And it would clarify definitions and standards to prevent violations of human rights. It would improve state accountability and transparency with respect to action taken for older persons. And it would raise public awareness on the contributions many older persons make. I want you to just remember what a convention on the elimination of discrimination against women, what an impact that has made, or the convention on the protection of the rights of persons with disabilities, and what an amazing impact that has had on persons with disabilities around the world. So the NGO Committee on Aging, and hopefully with all your help and participation, continues to advocate for a convention in many ways. We collaborate with NGOs around the world who are also advocating for a convention, primarily through the Global Alliance for the Rights of Older Persons. It's called GAROP, G-A-R-O-P, Global Alliance, and we would really encourage you to join. They have wonderful tools for advocacy tools to help us. And the NGO Committee on Aging collaborates with the independent expert on the enjoyment of all human rights by older persons. And this independent expert is appointed by member states, and she'll be speaking to us at the meeting next April. And she is working on the rights of older persons and how to make sure that the governments who will be discussing the rights of older persons will have all the information that for them to take decisions. Each year, and I think many of you have probably participated, each year before the open-ended working group meets, we convene a one-day workshop to discuss strategy and actions and what could be taken during the meeting of the 4-day meeting of the open-ended working group. And during the 4-day open-ended working group, the NGO Committee also convenes early morning briefings to strategize and be informed about the behind-the-scenes politics and how we can react. So I had mentioned conducting mission visits to speak with member states. Many of our members are doing their bit around the world to not only take care of older persons, but also fight for their rights. And I do understand that many of our members here are doing good work. And I think what we also need to consider is, in addition to doing good work for older persons, whether it's providing care, making sure they have enough to eat, whatever, we also need to change policy. And that's why we are participating at the global level at the UN. We want to change policy. So many of our members convene workshops and webinars around the world to highlight issues, and many of our members speak up at UN meetings. And I will talk a little bit about this on how we can help our members to participate more effectively. So as I mentioned earlier, we do have a subcommittee to promote the convention. So we would like you all to go on the website and see what that subcommittee does and try and join it, and so that we can work together. So that's the Susan Summers part of the thing. And if I may, Cynthia, I'll close the presentation by talking about what the NGO Committee on Aging has actually done on behalf of all of you, of all of the members. As you've noticed, as you've heard, our NGO Committee on Aging, with all 65 members, support, obviously, the rights of older persons. We support an inclusive society where both the needs and contributions of older persons are recognized. And we support the elimination of age discrimination in any form. And you've heard already the various ways we bring attention and at the global level to older persons around the world. Amal has been an amazing partner in our journey to protect the rights of older persons. We bother her every 5 minutes, you know, what's the latest, what can we do? I will tell you that not many departments, offices in the UN have strong civil society support for their work. But Amal asked for support, and we certainly got it. She got it by us bothering her every 5 minutes to see what we can do to help her along. The NGO Committee on Aging is a member of the Stakeholder Group on Aging, which participates in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. So we participated in the drafting of a position paper to the high-level political forum that met in July, which was also a virtual meeting, which was not too successful as far as I'm concerned. You know, when you're not in the corridors, bumping into member states and getting intel from them and asking them to support our cause, it's not possible when it's done, when the meeting's held virtually. So we lost out on that sort of personal contact. And I do hope that many of you can later on during the Q&A session will be able to share with us some of the work that you're doing to promote the rights of older persons. So the NGO Committee on Aging also collaborated with an organization of a side event on the 7th of July in collaboration with Stakeholder Group of Persons with Disabilities to discuss SDG delivery for older persons and persons with disabilities post-COVID-19. And with all of these events, we have shared the information with you through our different mailings and also on our website. Our website is actually undergoing some upgrading at the moment. So a number of our members also participated in the discussions during the high-level political forum. For instance, IFA, a representative, the Secretary General of IFA, was selected to contribute to a background document for one of the sessions of the high-level political forum. And an IAGG took the lead in preparing a statement that was delivered. Well, it was not delivered by a person, but it was submitted to the Economic and Social Council General Debate on implementation of the SDGs. Some of our members were involved in preparing flyers and participating in the Economic Commission for Europe's regional meeting on Beijing +25 to make sure that older women were included in the discussions. Another intergovernmental body that we're involved in is the Commission for Social Development, which Amal referred to, which is responsible for the review and appraisal of the Madrid International Plan of Action on Aging. But during this year's meeting, we sponsored 3 side events. And we also, as part of our work on behalf of our members, prepared talking points on homelessness, which was one of the themes this year, so that our members could have these talking points when they went about attending the side events, so they can bring up issues about older persons and homelessness. As I mentioned before, the NGO Committee on Aging is also a member of the Global Alliance for the Rights of Older People. And recently, the steering group of that Global Alliance has approved the inclusion of the NGO committees in Geneva and New York as ex officio members on the steering group, so that this is an opportunity for us to exchange information of what is happening at the global level with what is happening at the national level. So for all you members who have affiliates around the world, it'd be wonderful if you become members of GARAP, so that we can all work together from global to local, local to global, to get our work done. One of the things that we will be concentrating on, and we hope all of you will join us in doing this, is to collaborate better with other NGO committees. In the past, we have had collaboration, and many of you have attended program meetings that we've organized in collaboration with the NGO Committee on the Status of Women, the NGO Committee on Migration, the NGO Committee on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, the NGO Committee on Human Rights, and the NGO Committee on Intergenerational Solidarity. But in the coming months, we would want, and we're planning to organize events to include even more NGO committees. We need to reach out to not just civil society NGOs that deal with older persons, but we need to reach out to other groups as well. We can support their cause and they can support our cause. So we would encourage you to go to our website regularly to learn more about the up-to-the-minute issues and the latest reports. All the Secretary General's policy briefs on COVID-19 are on our website. And we also have documents and reports from other key NGOs around the world, like Help Age International and Age International, so that you can see what is happening around the world. We, of course, will continue to draw attention to meetings, and we want you to keep pestering us on what you would like us to help you with. Many of you have indicated in the past that you're a little bit unsure about UN procedures. You know, how do you submit an oral statement or a written statement? You know, what do you have to do? You know, if you'd like a program on that, please let us know. Or perhaps you would like us to address a specific issue that you're very interested in. And I think, you know, we need help as well, because we're all, all of us, mostly, I think, are volunteers. There are a few of us, the younger ones, who still have a job, but most of us are volunteers. So we want you to help us and to participate in pushing for our cause. So, you know, what topics are of interest to you? We want to be useful for you. And maybe some of you would like to give a presentation of your own work, the work of your organization, to share with all of us. And so I want to close by saying that we cannot lose this opportunity to turn the tragedy of COVID-19 into a positive outcome for the rights of older persons. We really must take hold of this opportunity and to make use of it. So I do hope that we will go forward in much better collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Francis, and for delivering the report on behalf of Susan as well. I'm seeing some new faces that haven't been on our call before. I just think if any of you have a question, let's do that. But if any of the new people could just unmute yourself and introduce your name and the affiliation that you have. I do note, Daniel Hutchison, you are a new member of the NGO Committee on Aging. So, but just tell us what organization you're affiliated with.
Hi, yes, thank you. I support Susan on the subcommittee for elder abuse. I've spent 25 years on Wall Street, and I'm a postgraduate at University of Oxford working on the interactions of cognitive decline and elder financial abuse.
Great. Well, welcome. Welcome. I see on my screen Dr. Renee O'Leary. Unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself. You have to unmute yourself, Dr. Renee. You're not unmute. I'll come back to you. Shanae Osborne.
Yes, there's many of me for some reason here. My name's been popping up, but I am Shanae Osborne. I'm a student intern with Dr. Congress's UN team.
Oh, great. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you virtual or are you in New York?
Well, I am in New York, but I happen to be a virtual student anyway.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Sally George, I see.
Hi. Yes, I'm from India. I'm currently joining you from Kerala, South India. And I was involved with NGO for about 10 years now, but I was quiet. And I'm living in India for the past 5 years and running an NGO called ILAGA, which is Independent Living and Graceful Aging. So,
great. Well, welcome. Odetta Saul.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Odetta. I am also a MSW intern under Dr. Dean Congress at Fordham University. I do have an affiliation with the Administration for Children's Services. They foster a professional development program that allows me to be in this field placement and have the opportunity to work with Dr. Congress.
Okay, well, great, thank you. And
I think Dr. Renee is now unmuted.
I'm back. I'm so sorry. I suddenly disappeared. I am from New York. I have my organization's called Education for the 21st Century, and I'm a professor at Rutgers University in arts, culture, and media, but I've been doing a lot of work lately on developing courses, leading groups on wise aging, developed a class called Interdisciplinary Views of Aging, and this is, and I'm aging. So all of the above. I did go last year to IDOP, and I'm involved with some other groups that are interested in these issues. So thank you.
welcome, welcome. Dr. Smarmy.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody there. But here it's almost midnight in India, where I'm talking from. Thank you for this opportunity for speaking. I represent an organization which I founded. It's called Villages in Partnership, BIP. We work in the state of Telangana. And besides trying to facilitate the elected governments at the village level to be more, democratic and to be really responsible and own development of the villages, we've also been involved in working with senior citizens. And we have in 35 villages done some very interesting data collection of senior citizens. And we have very good primary data on the basis of which a number of different ideas are being taken up by the panchayats to really take care and be responsible for the lives of the senior citizens in the villages. I hope sometime there will be an opportunity for me to share the work that we have done, where we're trying to see that the senior citizens are basically a resource in neglect, and I think they should be brought out to bring out their use for society. And also the senior citizens must be the pride of any nation because of all the contributions that they've made and the wisdom that they've accumulated. Is now they should make available for the society and its needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I know we will have your contact information, Chesley, so we will be sure and be in touch with you. That's great. I see Asabi Rauda.
My name is Asabe Shehu Yaradua. I'm the founder and president of Asabe Shehu Yaradua Foundation. And we work in line with the United Nations. We work with elderly people and we make sure that the elderly people will be looked after. They should not be neglected.
Great, thank you. Christy Park.
Hi, how are you? This is UN intern also. Odetta, Shanae, Maria, we're joining this meeting as a UN intern. Dr. Congress is not here right now, but she is our internship supervisor. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you and welcome. Welcome, welcome. I see a Daniela Greenwood. Are you unmuted, Daniela?
I am unmuted.
I can't hear you. I think you need to raise the volume.
Okay.
We can't hear you, Daniela.
I understand. Oh, hello. Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear?
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry about that. I have got my video off because it is really early in the morning in Australia and I don't want you to see me in my pajamas. But it's been so joyous just listening to you all. I've just finished a dissertation looking at the human rights of people living with moderate to later stage dementia in care settings, in long-term care and residential aged care. And Emmy, actually, who's on this call with Ibasho, recommended that I join this. And I'm really here to find out how I can, to learn about all of this and to find out how I can contribute and participate and to learn some more advocacy tricks, which I've already gotten heaps of information on already and just in this call. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. It would be really helpful if you could send at least the executive summary of your dissertation. I would very much love to read it.
Wonderful. I'll definitely do that. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Emmy Kyoto, you're responsible for getting Daniela to us.
Hi, my name is Emmy Kyoto. Am I unmuted, by the way?
We can hear you.
Oh, great. Yeah, I actually see a familiar name, Kathy Klein's here. I was introduced by Global Aging Network, which I sit in the board to participate this today's meeting. I have a small not-for-profit organization called Ibasho. We really just try to see older people as a resource and asset, and we create program and co-create the program and the hub, community hub, where that can actually serve as a platform for older people to be able to contribute back to the community. So my background is architecture and urban planning, and I'm very much interested in supporting this human rights for older people by how we can actually change the city environment.
Great.
Thank you for having us.
Okay. Susan Simmons? Are you there, Susan? Susan Simmons? How about Ryan Gardner Cook?
Hi, I'm actually I work in government for this, but I'm a researcher at the New York City Department for the Aging. My director, Jackie Berman, she has been involved in this in the past, had put this across our plate. So I'm more of an observer trying to see what else is going on here. Most of my work has been researching food access, which has become especially important during this time.
Wow, yes, very important, very important. And you know, goal 2 of the Sustainable Development Goals is food insecurity. And it is, boy, this pandemic has raised that even to a higher level, I fear. So thank you for being with us. We hope you'll join us again. Anna Stauber, I know you're a member, but I haven't seen your face. So it's nice to welcome. Tell us, you're with the International Count. Tell us who you're with.
Yeah, so I'm a intern through Florence, Denmark and ICP. So I work with Leslie Popoff as well and Janet Siegel. And I was at a lot of meetings last year in person and now I'm back located in Minnesota with my family because the pandemic has, displaced a lot of students. I'm still a master's student and plan on completing my degree with an emphasis on the rights of older adults. So,
well, you must stay in touch with us, right?
Absolutely, yes. And all of you in policy, you'll be hearing from me.
Absolutely. Maria Borriello?
Hi everyone. I am an intern, UN intern under Dr. Congress, and I'm doing my master's in social work.
Great, great, great.
Happy to be here.
We're happy to have you all. I've sort of been flipping back and forth. Have I missed somebody? Just unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Oh, did I get Tamara Payetskaya?
Hi, it's Tamara Pietetskaya. I'm actually also an MSW intern under Dr. Dean Congress. I'm very excited to be here. This is all very interesting.
Good. Good. Well, we'll look forward to you continuing to join us. That's great news. Okay. Did I miss anyone? Anyone else? Let's see. There was one question. There may be many questions now, but back when Amal, you were speaking, I believe Erica, maybe you could clarify. I think it was the input you were referring to is needed for the MIPA review.
Amal, when you were discussing the resolution, were you referring to what civil society could do at the national level for the MIPA review? Because your team is pushing for it, but if civil society is absent and is not there, then it's harder, right? I'm sorry, because I had got an email from somebody in Washington and I got a little bit distracted when you were talking about that. So could you just maybe in 2 quick sentences let me know?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Erica. So the Madrid Plan of Action is sort of like soft policy, right? It has different areas that concerns older people. And to my surprise, the more I read into it, the more I find things that are still very relevant today. Of course, there are things that are also missing, that need to be addressed, that have emerged. In palliative care, long-term care, more details on older persons in humanitarian contexts, future of work. All these things need to have been sort of touched upon many, many years ago when this was adopted, but really need to be fleshed out. Now, this review and appraisal, this is the 4th time that it happens. It's global, and we report on it in New York to the membership of the UN. But we will be doing that in February 2023. To get there, it should start from the ground up, meaning next year, in 2021 will be the national review and appraisal. So each government knows already that they have to undertake this exercise. How they do it differs from one region to another. They do it, differently. And it's the regional commissions, which are like our regional arms of DESA in various regions of the world, kind of collaborate that work with member states. Now, this is where civil society have a role to play, where the modalities resolution opened up a door specifically for civil society to play, which is to go to the government and show this modalities resolution and say, listen up, we know that next year you've agreed that you will be doing the national review. We've been invited to take part in this. You've agreed that you would support us if possible. We want to engage in this. And they could do it collaboratively together. It could be a shadow report. I mean, the whole idea in the design of the review and appraisal when it was adopted is to bring in the voices of older persons, right? But it became such a routine kind of passive exercise that it lost that essence. And what has not helped it is that member states never adopted indicators to monitor what's happening. So they kind of like voluntarily just say, this is what we've done here, this is what we've done there. There isn't even a theme. If we were adopting a theme every review and appraisal cycle, it will help kind of zoom it in. And to be honest, I blame the UN as well. I mean, we have not promoted this, the need for, indicators. We've not pushed for the need for a theme. We just left it up to member states. You do whatever you want to do. And that puts more burden on the role of civil society to step it up and say, we don't think things are going well in this area. We think these issues have not been covered enough, and we want to push forward there and really bring in the voices of older persons into this exercise. Now, our colleagues in the regional commissions can help advise you on what's happening on the ground, who the focal points on aging are on the ground. That's why I was saying, if you have specific questions, reach out to us and we'll help guide you to the right people that are, monitoring this. Having said that, I think there are two entry points coming up for NGOs in our work that's coming up. That doesn't directly have to do with MIPA, but with our work at the UN. The first is that this interagency meeting that I talked about, and the open letter that the NGOs have sent to the Secretary General, which the Secretary General replied to, right? I'm thinking of holding an interagency meeting and inviting some sort of representation from civil society who were part of this open letter to come and talk to the UN system and really give them the opportunity to say, this is why we did this is what we wanted, this is what the Secretary General said you guys are supposed to do, and this is what we would like to see you do. So while I think this through, I haven't raised it yet with the membership, but I'm just flagging it so that you guys can start thinking along those lines, that there might be an opportunity where, you have access to all staff that work on aging issues throughout the world in different UN agencies, based on that open letter as an entry point, to come and represent the voices of older persons. And the second is that we're planning on holding most likely a virtual experts meeting. I don't know if I'm going to do it in January or February, but we'll base the next Secretary General report on this, and it's on recovering better from the pandemic or pandemics in general. Like, what have we learned? What did member states get right and what did they get wrong? And it can't just be a social-based conversation. It has to be embedded in an economic, conversation as well. And we also want to bring in the voices of older persons into that conversation. And I focus on the voices of older persons because if you go back to the Secretary General's video that he did with ARP, he emphasizes on the role of the family, for example. Okay, the role of the family is important, but what happens when that older person does not have children or grandchildren. And what happens when the family is already burdened and can't take the additional, responsibility of caring for the older persons? And I'm sorry, did anyone bother to stop and ask the older person if they want, to be living fully with the family? Maybe they want their own space. I mean, we've never bothered to ask, what do older people want? We just assume they need to be taken care of, they need to be here, they need to be there. And we want to move away from assumptions of what do older people want, and we want to hear from older people themselves. So, and that's why, with the NGO Committee on Aging, that's why I'm encouraging everyone to join and be active in it, because when governments come and have these discussions, we'll always have someone who's an older person themselves, organized and nominated by you guys to come to speak to these issues. So in addition to the review and appraisal, there are these two things coming up soon, just for you guys to keep on your radar. I think, Erica, you might have had a follow-up question? Or...
No, I think that's fine. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Well, and that response probably is the best note for us to end on. We've got our marching orders, and I look forward to seeing everyone on October 1st for the International Day of Older Persons. Thank you all. Be in touch, please. And thank you for all the new people. Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.